Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to the Career Speaker Series for today. Let me get this set up here. So welcome, everybody. As you well know, this Career Speaker Series is a 6-webinar educational seminar sponsored by the Napa County Office of Education, Marin County Office of Education, College of Marin, Napa Valley College, and the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. So for today, we're going to be talking and meeting individuals from the area or the sector of hospitality. Just so you know who I am, my name is Alex Jones. I'm a faculty at College of Marin, and we'll just go around and let everybody introduce themselves. Go ahead, Angela.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Angela Higdon. I'm with the Napa County Office of Education, and I'll be moderating today's question and answer session.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sita Williams. I work for the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay.
And then our presenters today, we're going to have them introduce themselves too. Go, whoever wants to kick it off.
I'm Alan DeGello, and I'm the Vice President and General Manager for Bardessono Hotel and Hotel Napa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Scholes. I'm filling in today for Ursula Zopp. Here at Auberge du Soleil, I'm the Learning and Development Manager, and I get to work with Ursula every day.
And then Ken, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Chef Ken Frank from La Toque in Napa. I own and operate La Toque Restaurant at the Westin Barassa, as well as the entire food and beverage department. And I'm delighted to be here today. Thank
you, everybody. And why offer a career speaker series? So we're just going to dive right into it. The goal of the Career Speaker Series, we want to introduce you to some of our local professional experts. We also want to help support you in building out your network and your connection within these spaces. Also in the process, we want to introduce you to jobs that you may not have considered as careers, and also help you make informed decisions about the next steps of your career path. And also, also for me personally, kind of taking account what this industry and what these spaces look like, with COVID and everything shutting down and opening up. So, helping everybody kind of, identify what's available, what the job market looks like, and building out that network. That is the goal for today. Well, one of the goals for today. The presentation itself, well, we're doing the introduction right now. We'll have a speaker panel discussion, and we'll have a question and answer time. And for the question and answer, please put your questions in the chat box, and we'll go ahead and monitor that for you. And then we'll go ahead and ask your question. And if there's, a question comes up later that you may want us to, present to the panelists, please let us know. We'll make sure we get it to them. Just a reminder, today is hospitality. On the 30th, we'll have the trades. April 13th, we'll have technology. April 20th, we'll have green and bioscience. And April 27th, we'll jump into law. We'll close out with law. And these are resources. If you're looking for a job, career support, these are the resources that are available for you throughout the various counties. And if you don't see your county there, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out and email us, and we'll make sure we get those answered for you. So right now, I'm going to hand it off to Angela. Let me close this here. Get it started. So Angela, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Alex. So I'm going to just round robin our questions as we go, and panelists, if we have questions come in from the chat, we'll go ahead and bring those to you as well. So why don't we start with Alan? First question, when did you decide you wanted to work in hospitality, and how long have you worked in the industry?
So I've been in the industry for 38 years now, and I originally wanted to be a chef. So I had started out in a culinary program, but quickly realized I like to eat more than I like to cook. And then in the program, learned about the front of the house and the restaurant, but then really got excited about the business on what we call the room side, sort of the front desk housekeeping area. So that's where I ended up, and that's how I came up with the ranks.
Okay, great, Alan. Chef Ken, what about you?
Well, it was a little bit by accident. I've been really lucky. Long story short, age 16, my family moved to France for a year. And at the end of the year, I wanted to stay so bad that my parents said, well, if you get a job, we lived in a little village on Lake Geneva. If you get a job, you can spend the summer. You got to find a family to live with. So I found a family to live with, got a job as a dishwasher in a local hotel. And I started washing dishes the summer I was 16. After about 6 weeks, because I really hustled, they gave me the opportunity to choose whether to go in the dining room or in the kitchen and move up the ladder and become essentially the chef's slave. And I chose the kitchen because I love to eat. I like to cook. We've been living in France for a year, and I was desperate to learn how to make this delicious food before I had to go home. And, you know, I've been working in restaurants now for 50 years. And I was just lucky to find something that I really liked early on.
Great. Thank you so much. Josh, same question. When did you decide you wanted to go into hospitality, and how long have you been working in the industry?
Well, I feel like a lot of people, my roots in hospitality also started in F&B. My first job, similar to washing dishes, I was tossing pizzas and didn't really think it was a perfect first job, and didn't think that it would kind of launch me into a career of hospitality, or really enjoy it as much as I did. But I loved it, and I loved making a connection with people every night, be it through food or later on through entertainment. So for about 10 years, from 20 to 30, I was with the Walt Disney Company, specifically Parks and Resorts, that division. And then just a couple of years ago, made the leap to more strictly resorts, spent some time in casinos and gambling. And then now I'm here at Napa Valley on kind of the luxury side of hospitality. So kind of done a little bit of everything, but certainly entertainment was a big chunk of my experience. And that's a side of hospitality that I love, because I think to some degree, we're all entertainers, right? We're putting on this show. There's certainly a facade sometimes that not everyone sees. And I love that. I love making those memories and making the magic, not to sound too Disney cheesy here, but that's kind of how I started, and a little bit of my path and where I am now.
I think I'm a little jealous of the Disney.
That'll be for another webinar.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, Josh, why don't we stay with you actually? What do you think in your experience has been the key personality traits and the skills required for your success?
I think an ability for myself, something I always value in individuals and I like to pride myself on, is the ability to connect with others. However that may be, it looks different for everyone, but to make an emotional connection with another human being, I think is extremely valuable. It serves as a wonderful basis to then grow a working relationship, or to grow as maybe someone's leader, also to grow the connection that you may have with a guest when you build that emotional connection. So that's always been, I think, my number one thing. And again, I revert back to all of these things that are ingrained in my head from a decade with Disney, and certainly emotional engagement is one of them. I come from the L&D, or learning and development side of things. And so an ability to be able to convey a message in a way where people will listen, I think is another strong attribute. And willing to work hard, willing to work kind of odd, crazy hours. I mean, all of those things that kind of come along with hospitality and restaurants and resorts and hotels that you don't always think about at first. But when someone is able to kind of push through and see the success of what that work does, I think they come out the other side a stronger individual. And I think that's really the basis for what I think makes a successful person within hospitality.
Okay, great. Alan, same question. What do you think are the key personality traits and skills that have led you to be successful in hospitality?
Well, I think to be successful in hospitality, I think what I like to think I demonstrated what we as employers and even customers look for is someone that really has a commitment to ensuring customer satisfaction. Someone that is enthusiastic about their job. They can't do this for 38 years and not be enthusiastic. You have to demonstrate that with each and every guest interaction. Striving to do the best job that you can every day. I think being organized and having the ability to multitask are also core skills to have, along with good written and verbal listening skills, the ability to demonstrate empathy, having problem-solving skills, adaptability, being flexible, having that attention to detail are also very, very important skills that we often talk about on a daily basis with the teams that that I work with here. And speaking of teams, that is also very key. You have to have that ability to work with teams. There is no single department or person that can deliver an exceptional guest journey by themselves. There's no silos in a hotel. You have to be able to work with them.
Right. Thanks, Alan. Chef Ken, what about you?
Well, from a strictly culinary perspective, the first thing is you absolutely have to love to cook. You have to love to eat. You have to love food. You have to love what you do. Right behind that, and really coupled with that, is you have to love sharing that with other people, and making other people happy with what you do has to make you happy, because it's a hard job. It's a lot of work. It's a largely a night job. It's a weekend job. It is, you need to be relentlessly curious, because you need to continue to learn and grow to fuel your passion for what you do. And that's something that's hard for some people to sustain. So really, really loving what you do. If I didn't love my job, I couldn't do it. So you really have to like that aspect of it. And then you also need to be really hardworking, because if you don't work hard, other people will work harder and they will pass you by. And you need to be relentlessly organized, because it's kind of the same thing there. If you're not relentlessly organized, other people will outperform you and they will pass you by. I'm not saying that it's always a race and it's a competition, but it's a hard job. It's a great, don't get me wrong, I love what I do, but cooking professionally is not for everyone.
Okay, great. Chef Ken, we're going to stay with you and kind of piggyback on what you just said. You know, I've heard from so many people and so many of our hospitality partners that it is it's a tough job, and any of us that are in any kind of service industry can relate to a certain extent. But what do you think motivates you to get up and do this for, what did you say, over 50 years?
Yeah, very clearly, there's nothing else I would rather do. I love to cook. I love to eat. I get tremendous personal satisfaction and just sheer joy out of being with people. It's a people business. And if you cook for people and you put a smile on their face, it's really, there's no other way to scratch that itch. So I'm very fortunate in that I've managed to, I've been my own boss a long time, so I get to do what I like, but I love working with my team. I love seeing the customers every night. I love coming up with new dishes. It's just, I mean, being a chef and all of those things, it's just what I live for. It's what I love. It's not a job. I would do it for free. It's what I like to do. And I think it's really important that you find something that you like so much that you would do it anyway.
I'm going to apologize. My dog is barking, so I apologize in advance. Josh, same question. What what motivates you to keep on going every day?
I think very similar to what Kin said. I mean, I enjoy people. I enjoy building those connections, not only with the guests that we have, but with our team members as well. That's something I always prioritize anytime I join a new team or am at a new location is connecting with the people that I'm going to be working with, because if I don't get along with the people that I work with, I'm not going to want to come in to work and see them and be with them all day. And I'm excited and thrilled every day that I come into Auberge du Soleil and I get to work with this wonderful team that some of them have been here for 20, 30 years. Others are quite new, and we just have this wonderful kind of dynamic that keeps it going. And it comes back to those connections that I just keep talking about. And a nice view doesn't hurt as well, but certainly being able to leave at the end of the day and knowing that I learned something from the people that I work with. I maybe grew and in ways that I didn't think I could grow that day. Is what keeps me coming back and wanting to do it the next day.
Great, thank you. And Alan, what about you?
I think the same sort of thing. At the end of the day, for me, it's about service. I've always enjoyed providing service, leading a team that creates memories and experiences for our guests. I've been very fortunate in my career to work with teams that were and are very dedicated and passionate about providing service in beautiful settings. I really don't have the views that Auberge has, but I've always been in a beautiful setting. And my current role that allows me to be that coach and mentor for the team that I work with. To do that every day brings something new. I couldn't imagine being in a cubicle or in an office for 38 years, day in and day out. I just can't. I've been very fortunate in this job to travel all over the world and meet people from all over the world. Have been lifelong friends in this industry. And I've had associates that I've worked with for over 20 plus years now in this role that still that we stay connected, as well as guests. I'm many times a glorified tablet with these guests. I'm giving them bookings at other places. But really, at the end of the day, it's about service. Putting a smile on someone's face without being cliche. But I think in hospitality, we have to have that desire. It's not enough just to have the passion. You have to have the desire to provide service, to sustain a career for as long as so many of us have on the call today.
Great, thanks, Alan. So Josh, we're going to start with you on the next one. What level of education is typically required for doing what you do?
So for hospitality in general, I mean, it's a very wide range of education that is required, if you even want to use that word, right? Because we have people who come in with skills and talents that aren't taught or learned in schools. They're taught and learned in working environments, whatever they may be. From my perspective, currently I'm learning and development manager at our resorts. And so what that entails is kind of overseeing all of our training initiatives and programs and onboarding experiences that we do, making sure we're hitting the service standards that we say we're going to hit and that we're known to provide, and making sure we're doing it in a fresh and a bright way. In order to deliver those things, though, I never look for a minimum educational requirement for someone who's coming in. Just because you may have a master's degree or a PhD or even a bachelor's doesn't mean that you may be able to execute some of these interpersonal skills or service skills the way that someone else could come in who maybe doesn't even have a high school diploma, right? So within learning and development, my role sits in the HR realm. And from my experience, I've seen kind of a 50-50 down the middle of the road here when it comes to HR. Typically, I think half of HR people go to school to work within human resources, and the other half kind of migrate from somewhere else. And I came from that other half originally because I have a training background and Then I stepped into a role after Disney where my training role was based within human resources. So that was my first kind of introduction into that world. And then now we're seeing it become more of a standard where learning and development or training is really included in a lot of companies' initiatives. And now we're part of the human resources realm. And so I think moving forward, we're probably going to see some more on educational opportunities when it comes to learning and development. It's kind of a newer path for a lot of companies to take, and we're all kind of finding this out and growing together and learning from each other, and finding out that most people prioritize the ability to be able to learn and grow within a job, which is something that I think for decades really wasn't given any consideration. But I found from my own experience and from talking to my fellow colleagues that, like I said, if I can leave at the end of the day and said, I learned something today, I grew in a way that maybe I didn't think I could, or that wasn't on my agenda for the day, I feel satisfied. So hopefully others do as well. That super long answer pretty much just to say, I've seen both sides of it. I've worked with people who have their PhDs and are phenomenal. I've worked with people who have a high school diploma and are equally as phenomenal. It comes down to passion and ability to strive and push yourself and to be the kind of team member that you value working with.
Great, thanks, Josh. Chef Ken, same question.
Well, I'm from the high school diploma end of the pendulum there. I did go to UC Irvine for 3 months, enrolled in pre-med. I've been on leave of absence since the winter of 1975. You don't necessarily need any formal training to work in a kitchen. Nothing I do is rocket science. It's lots and lots of practice. And as I mentioned before, working in a kitchen is not professionally, is not necessarily a career for everyone. So the first thing I tell people, go get a job. Get a job in a restaurant, working in a kitchen, the best restaurant you can find, but it doesn't need to be a great restaurant, it just needs to be a good restaurant. And there's lots of good restaurants. And after 6 months, you will either know whether you want to be in the restaurant business because you can't help yourself and you've got the bug, or whether you love to cook and it's going to be a great hobby for the rest of your life, but maybe you don't want to work in a kitchen and maybe it's not for you. You don't necessarily need to go to culinary school, but you should get a job before you spend a lot of money and enroll and have your heart set on being the next greatest chef, because it's kind of like being a Hollywood star. 1 in 10,000 gets lucky and has that happen. It's a hard career to reach the top in. It's a very satisfying career if it's what you love to do. So I tell people, get a job, make sure you like working in the kitchen, and you will quickly find out if you do. Then beyond that, you can go to culinary school if that's what you want to do, or you can just keep working in restaurants, and especially locally with resources like the college. If you've decided you want to be a chef, keep working in the best restaurant you can find and work your tail off. At the same time, make sure you're learning computer skills. Make sure you're learning communication skills. Take a class in food safety. You don't need an entire bachelor degree, but you do need, if you want to go far in this business, beyond just being a cook who does what he's told, if you want to be a leader, you need to learn how to work with people and lead people. You need to learn how to write well and communicate well. You need to learn some business and costing and financial things so that you can control payroll and control your food cost and have a grasp of math, because otherwise you're going to be stuck just being a cook. So if you want to move up and become a sous chef or a chef, or let alone own your own business, you need to learn a number of skills that you can learn one at a time by taking classes at a local college. You don't need an Ivy League degree, but you do need to learn these things, and you need to learn them well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ken. Alan.
Yeah, the same for me. I mean, there's certainly certain positions in the industry that require a 4-year degree of some sort, whether it's business or hospitality. But in our business, it's still one of those businesses that you can work your way up through the ranks, so to speak. I started out as a part-time bellman and a front desk agent when I started with Hyatt Hotels many years ago, while I was going to hotel school. So it really gave me, the fundamentals in sort of an educational setting. But then I saw the real world at work and how to apply what I was learning and hearing in the classroom. And I think really that's the best approach. I mean, in hospitality, there are so many what I call early opportunities for taking on responsibilities. Many hotel companies have management training programs. I'm a product of Hyatt Hotels management training program. When I worked my way up the ranks, I decided that this is the career for me, and I entered into a 12-month program. I think now it's maybe a 6-month program. Every company is a bit different, but it was very, very valuable. They teach you everything, and then it's really up to you then to do with what you do with what you've learned. But I always encourage everyone to get some actual experience, get a part-time job, certainly get an education. You'll never go wrong with having some form of education, a diploma. It's the advice I just gave to my 19-year-old son. He came to me and said that he wants to get into hospitality. And he's studying now at UNLV, and I encouraged him to get a job. And he's been working in my hotel for a couple of seasons, and I haven't scared him away yet. So he seems to be getting on with it. Although he did tell me he may need to go work for another hotel company this summer. So you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, look, hospitality is one of those careers, like I said, that you can really get on the job experience and do very well.
Great, thanks, Alan. And Alan, we'll keep it with you, but I am going to say before we move on, go Pack. Just little UNLV versus UNR rivalry there.
All right.
So, Alan, when you think back on your career, what is one of the most memorable days that you've had in your occupation?
So there are many that stick in my mind, and I guess I'll give you a really good one, and then one that turned out to be a good one, but one that was a result of something very tragic at the end. So the good one is, it was my first job as a general manager. So it was my very first time in that role. It was my first time with my leadership team, with my own team in general. And it was the first time that together we earned the Forbes Travel Guide 5-star rating. And that, for those that don't know, that's sort of the creme de la creme, if you will, a stamp of approval of service excellence. That at the time, I think there were only 35 or 40 hotels around the world that had that distinction. And I was immensely proud of the team's accomplishment to get that. And it was my first everything in the industry. The second one was, I was running a hotel. It was the Mandarin Oriental in Boston. And that hotel, I was there for 5 years as the general manager. And my second year there, the tragedy of the Boston Marathon bombs happened outside the front of my hotel. And it was horrific. I could dwell on that, but what I chose to dwell on or really reflect on, and what so many people told me afterwards, was the unbelievable professionalism and care and responsiveness that my team reacted in that situation with. To this day, I'll come across people that were there in that hotel at that moment in time, and they still reflect on that. And there's no amount of training. We all have risk management in our hotel, and we all have training for disaster. But I can tell you, when the bombs went off, I didn't go reach for my manual to say, okay, this is what I have to do. And these bombs went off right up. The second one went off 40 yards from my front door. of that hotel. And the way that team responded, it was incredible. So I guess those would be my two most proud moments ever.
Okay, thank you. Josh, what about you?
Good question. I feel like now I have to share two. Also, Alan's raising the bar here. I'll share three just to one up. No, but I will share two as well, and just because they're so different. And I'll share something that happened recently that I'm proud of. We just launched a new orientation program here at Auberge du Soleil, and so the last few months, my world has been kind of revolving around that and figuring out what elements do we really want to bring together to show our new team members who we are and what we do and how we do it. And I'm proud to say that the day went well, but the final moment that we do in the orientation is so special and really filled my heart. And that's where we take our new team members. Our orientations are small. We'll do a maximum of 14 team members per session. So this go around, we had 8, I believe. And we give them kind of a guest experience. We realize that a lot of hospitality within Napa Valley can be out of reach to those of us who live here. And often solely enjoyed by those from other parts of the world who come to visit us. And we're lucky enough to live here all year long, but it's nice to feel a little bit spoiled. So we want to give that feeling to our team members every day when they come in, certainly for orientation as well, which traditionally can be kind of like a snoozer of an event. So we take them for a little surprise and we walk down to our sculpture garden that's just beautifully curated and groomed. And out in the garden, we have a surprise picnic with a kind of like a charcuterie table, freshly baked cookies from our culinary team. And then we have our assistant wine director and sommelier come give us a quick little lesson on savoring champagne. And then we savor a bottle and we do a cheers. And while we're doing that cheers, we go around and we share our favorite part of the day. And what I was proud of was when we went around that day, everyone in the group said that they were so happy to have gotten to know each other, which is like a total hospitality moment. And inside it was like, yes, we did it. But it felt so good. I was so proud of this group of people from different departments, different divisions that came together. They don't normally see each other, and moving forward, they probably won't because they work in different parts of the resort. But for that day, and moving forward, they're one team and one group of people that's striving to achieve a common goal. And so I'm so proud of that and them. And I love seeing them around now and reminiscing on that day. And I look forward to doing it again in 2 weeks now. We do it every month. So that's one of them, and which is like kind of the big grand thing that I'm proud of most recently. But then there was a small moment, and I feel like in hospitality, we all have these small moments that you look back on and you go, wow, that was kind of cool. And hopefully this could inspire anyone who's listening. And you don't have to work in hospitality to have these moments. But at my last position before Auberge du Soleil, I was a corporate trainer for a resort and casino. And casinos are certainly a different environment than theme parks or Napa Valley, to say the least. Fast-paced, quick, tons of team members. And there was one team member who said to me one day after a class that I had taught, thank you for being the only person who listens to me. Because we spent some time talking afterwards. And I was like, well, of course, what kind of said, well, thank you. Thanks for sticking around and talking. And I was getting set up for my next class because I had another one right after that. And it really didn't hit me until later on, the power that we have as individuals, no matter what our job is or what kind of field we're in. Certainly in hospitality, we have the opportunity to touch people and connect with them in a way that just it goes beyond measure and goes beyond things. And sometimes it's just in someone's eyes. They just have to look at you and you know that you've helped them that day. And that's what makes me proud. And to circle back, that's what keeps me coming back every day, is knowing that if it's the day I don't go back, it's the day that I miss the opportunity to help someone feel heard.
Wow. Yeah, it's not all about the guests, is it? So,
No.
okay.
50-50.
Yes. Thank you. Chef Ken, what about you? What's one of your most memorable days throughout your career?
I've been doing this so long, and there are so many, and they happen so often, because it's something that I love to do. So, I've won awards. Certainly the day that the director of the Michelin Guide called me on my cell phone, in my car, to tell me that we had just won our first Michelin star was a huge point of personal pride. I've been invited to cook in Japan and Korea and Singapore and Italy and all over this country for special occasions. And I've done birthday parties for huge stars that, turn into huge memorable occasions. But, I'm also really proud of when team members leave and achieve success and we remain friends and I see them doing really, really well. It's a people business, and there are just so many opportunities to enjoy what we do and be proud of what we do and to celebrate what we do, that it's hard to pick just one.
Okay, thank you so much. Chef Ken, we'll stay with you. So we actually have a question in the chat. What was the best career advice you ever received?
I don't know that it was really necessarily advice, but the best boss I ever had was early on. After I came back from France the first summer when I worked as a dishwasher and then a cook, I got a job on the weekends in Southern California cooking hamburgers at a local ski resort. And I got to ride up the hill to work for about an hour from La Cañada up to Angeles Crest, in the cab of the pickup truck with the owner of the ski area. He built the lifts. He ran the whole place himself. He was a hands-on guy, and there was nothing he would not do himself. And he respected every single person that worked for him. Yet he just required accountability. He required, and I still look at him as a model for a boss who I admired, but who was also one of us. And I've always tried to emulate that. I don't know that I've had any one piece of it. I'm self-taught. I've had lots of advice. I learned what I do working in other restaurants, but I've been my own boss since I was 23. So I learned a lot of things the hard way. I would have gone to take a number of classes in school that I didn't take, but I learned accounting. I learned food safety. I learned spreadsheets because I had to. But I wouldn't do anything different either, because the choices I made got me where I am today. But to be a boss that can relate directly to his team and that the team respects because you will do everything you ask them to do is really crucially important.
Okay, great advice. Thank you. Alan, what about you? What is the best career advice you ever received?
Well, I think it was my mentor early on in the hotel that said to me, whatever you do, be kinder than you have to be. And I have taken that with me ever since that day that he gave me that advice, and have used that in very difficult situations, where you're having a difficult situation with an associate or a guest or whatever. It just, even outside of business, just be kinder than you have to be. People don't expect it. And I tell a lot of the younger managers, leaders that I work with, that they don't know what the associates are going through outside of the hotel. for some people, coming to work is an escape out of whatever reality they have at home or wherever. And that we just have to be kinder than we have to be. And you get a lot more mileage with and through people when you do that. Because when you're leading a team, you're not always making popular decisions, you're having to make difficult decisions, but it doesn't mean that you can't be humble or kind about it. And that has worked for me like a charm.
Great, thank you. Josh, what about you?
I'm going to say this was from a mentor that I had as well, who opened my eyes to lots of different things, but the main one that I'll focus on is he said you need to be aware of how you build intentional influence. And we spent a lot of time working on that. And I think it's important for every individual to realize that we do have the power of influence with others. And in order to be a successful leader, if that's what you would like to be, you need to be intentional about your influence and intentional about the things you say, and intentional about the things you do as well, because someone's always watching, and your words or your actions are going to influence how someone else behaves or acts. And it's difficult to be aware of that 100% of the time. We all slip from that. But if we're being intentional, hopefully we're thinking about it and we're aware of how we may influence others, because a lot of times it's greater than what we ever realize. So I think that was something that sticks with me, and I often go back to and ask myself, how am I being intentional with my influence on those that I work with?
Okay, thank you. So Alan, you touched on this a little bit, so I won't start with you on this question, but I will circle back and see if you have anything to add. But you mentioned the importance of collaboration. And so Chef Ken, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell us how important is collaboration, and in what sense is that collaboration happening in your kitchen?
Well, without collaboration, there's no success at all. I mean, I have a staff of about 20 in my kitchen, and without them helping, there's no way I could come close to doing anywhere near all of what needs to be done. So it's a team effort. Cooking is a team. It's a team sport. Different people have different roles to play. They have to help each other. They have to communicate. We have to coordinate so that things are cooked and come up at the same time. We collaborate on creativity. We collaborate on planning. We collaborate, through service. It's fast-paced, communicating, helping, finishing, timing, coordinating. It's a super collaborative role. It is not, you can't be a loner. You have to be someone who thrives in a team environment. And the best people are the people that do everything. If they don't have something, if they find something, they always find a way to help. You get points for shooting baskets, but you get points for assists too. And it's those assists that make all the difference. It's absolutely a team sport. You can't run a kitchen without a team. And it's important that that team be cohesive. And it's important that they like each other, they respect each other, and that they help each other. And when you achieve that, what you can do is simply multiply.
Great, thank you. Josh, what about you?
Same. I'm just gonna I'm sure echo what Ken said. I mean, collaboration is a must in hospitality, especially in a resort setting, which I'm sure Alan can agree to and also talk to extent about. I'll give one example. Every week we get a preference sheet of some of our guests who will be at the resort that week. And on that is information that every department needs to know. It's assembled by our reservations department, who helps to book these guests. It has notes about their likes, their dislikes, that our sales team might need to take note of, or that our in-room dining team might need to take note of. If someone's allergic to something, we're going to let our whole culinary team know about that, so they're not being served anything that they can't eat or digest. It's letting our valet know what time they're going to arrive, so they're ready with a golf cart or a luggage cart, and making sure that we have the right staffing levels that day. It lets our front desk know what time they're going to arrive and how they want their room set up. So that's just kind of one example of at a resort or at a hotel, these preference sheets are a really good show of how we have to collaborate, and kind of one of the hundreds of ways that we do it, because like Ken said, it's just not possible. There's nothing that goes on here that's a one-man job in any role. I talk to a dozen people every day with work-related questions, and I think that's another big part of collaboration, is feeling comfortable asking questions. And there was a while where, like, sometimes you don't want to, right? You want to seem like know what's going on, but I've never been asked a question that I feel like, why are you asking me this? Right? I think anytime someone asks a question, it's like, please ask if you don't know the answer. And creating an environment where people feel comfortable to ask, because that's not always the case in every work situation. So I'm lucky enough to be in a place now where I feel like I'm comfortable to ask the person sitting next to me, or the guy upstairs, or the girl down the hall, hey, what does this mean? What can you show me? How can you help me? And how can I learn from you?
Okay. Alan, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think it's clear that collaborating and teamwork is extremely important in a hotel, restaurant, kitchen. Not any one department can do the job without the other. But I think also collaborating with, like-minded or other sort of skilled hospitality professionals can, maybe with other outside of your own hotel, can also be a rewarding and profitable experience. That type of collaboration can help you achieve your own personal career goals. It can maybe enable you to reinvent your career, or maybe to continue your passion, learn another department within the hotel, or even about a new industry. So collaboration in and of itself, even outside of the hotel, I think is really important to do and to experience, throughout your career. It also, I think, even more important this day and age, it helps you stay relevant.
Okay, great. So I think it's apparent in talking to all three of you that the passion that you have and the love you have for what you do. But I'm going to throw this out there and just ask you to answer, what do you think is the best thing about working in your industry? And then the second part, what is the most challenging? So Alan, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. Today, in this day and age, with all the technology that we have, it's getting harder and harder to have face-to-face interactions. It's just not as frequent as it used to be. So for me, it's that ability to work with people, with my teams. If room service is in the weeds, I am more than happy to go and help them collect trays or deliver an order. Always available to speak with the guests. Anything that we can do that will help deliver that exceptional or memorable moment. So for me, it's that face to face. Like I said earlier, I can't imagine being in people dealing with all my stuff on the phone. And that's also the challenge for me. I think we're constantly inundated with email. How many times are we strapped to our email inbox? When I started in the business, that didn't even exist. So now that shows you how old I am. But it didn't exist. You did everything without a computer. Imagine that. And then I think the second part of that, the challenge in this business, just like I think the best is working with people, I also think the challenge is working with people. Especially today with recruiting and retaining talent that is so difficult to do across all industries, but what appears to be especially difficult for the hospitality industry.
Okay, great, thank you. Josh, what about you?
There's, man, great answer, Alan, as you took like 5 of the things I was going to say. So I'm going through my Rolodex of all the things I love. There's so many things that I do enjoy and I admire. I think what I'll present is going to be both sides of the same coin here, where the best thing I think about hospitality, or even entertainment, kind of where I started on the hospitality side of things, is the opportunity to grow and to travel to places that you may have never thought you would. I was lucky enough to live in France for just about a year, Japan for about a year, Toronto for a few months, 3 places I never thought I would travel to or live. And I'm so thankful that I got to. Had it not been for hospitality or entertainment, I certainly would have never lived in those places. Maybe I would have gone for like, a week in Paris, but not for almost a year, certainly. Now, being a little bit more permanent, I'm in California. My family's in California, and my siblings and my parents. I'm kind of grounded here. So now the challenging thing within my role and from an operational standpoint is that growth sometimes, because like Alan was saying, it's hard to retain our workforce, especially in the last few years. And it's always kind of this bittersweet moment when you see someone who is so wonderful and so successful take that next step because they have to take that next step to grow and to change and to have an experience. It's bittersweet because you're so excited and happy for them, but you're also a little bit sad to lose that special person and spark that you get to work with every day. So I think that's the hard part, is having to say goodbye sometimes, even though you know it won't be forever. Whatever kind of magic that person brought to your resort, to your workplace, is going to be gone until they come back, if they do come back. And in the meantime, you find a kind of magic or spark that's equally as magnificent, but it's different. And I think that's what's challenging.
Okay, great. Chef Ken.
Well, there's the obvious stuff. I mean, on the good side, I eat better and get to taste more amazing wine than I've ever known. It's just what I get to do. And that's pretty awesome. But I think really the answer, I think Alan hit it on the head. The answer to both sides of that question is people. The best part of this business is people. You have to like people. You have to like making people happy. You have to like meeting and interacting with and learning from people. You have to like people. And the hardest part of this business is also that even though the overwhelming majority of our guests are awesome people, and it's so much fun to take care of them and give them a good time, and it feels so great when you succeed and they say thank you and you put a smile on their face and they want to come back. There's a very tiny sliver of people that are just not living to be happy. And those are very, very difficult to deal with. You see it a lot right now. Certainly, flight attendants are on the front lines. Hotel front desk staff is on the front lines because people are frustrated and angry. And it's a very small percentage of people, but boy, are they poisonous, and boy, is that difficult. And you have to be able to do both.
For sure. Okay. So last question. I think that oftentimes we hear, particularly when I'm working with high school students, parents telling them, don't ever go into hospitality. It's all minimum wage. It's, blah, 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 blah. And so we want to change that perception. So my last question is, beyond those, yes, we know they're those entry-level jobs, but what kinds of salaries can really come with a career in hospitality? So Chef Ken, I'll start with you. What's a typical salary range for somebody, say at your level?
Well, let me address the broader question, because it's a really great question, and I think we get a bad rap. Hospitality business pays minimum wage. In California, that's $15 an hour. But nobody in the hospitality business is stuck at minimum wage unless they have zero ambition, and that's all they ever want to do. There is virtually no one in my organization or in any good restaurant or in any hotel who is stuck earning minimum wage. If you work hard and you learn on the job, you can move up. And we had a girl straight out of Napa High, started to work for us in Rutherford as a back waiter when she was 18 years old. She worked hard, she was smart, she was making minimum wage plus a small share of the service charges. 4 years later, she got her pin from the Court of Sommeliers and started working as a lead server here. And within 2 or 3 years, she was a som, and now she runs the tasting room downtown for Mayacamas. What she achieved in 7 or 8 years, because she liked what she did, she was smart, and she taught herself, is just a really good example of what you can do in this business. I see it on the hotel side. People move from the front desk into the back office, and an assistant, then they become an assistant manager. And in 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden, they've got a career path that's a real viable career that will allow them to move forward and work in interesting places. And in a very reasonable amount of time, have a great job with responsibility and a future and a great salary. In the kitchen, it's very much the same thing. If you work hard in the kitchen at the entry level, we will quickly realize that you're a good worker and you're an asset, and we will give you more to do. And as we teach you to do more things, we have to pay you more, because if we don't, the competition will steal you. So you can escalate very quickly. Very few people in my kitchen make less than $20 an hour. Almost no one in the restaurant makes less than minimum wage. Half of my staff is self-taught and has learned in the business. Many of them make 50, 60, 70,000. Some of them make over 100,000 a year. A chef de cuisine can make the better part of $100,000 a year. An executive chef can make as much as $150,000 or $200,000 a year. It's not millionaire money, but it's really good money. And at the top of this business, you get great opportunities to travel and do great things and meet great people. And so this is a business, if you want to work and work your way up, I can't think of another business with greater opportunities to teach yourself and earn yourself a really great career.
Great, thank you. Josh?
Great. Great answer, Ken. I feel like I'm just it's your guys' fan base over here going, yes, yes. It's so true. I mean, we have great examples of career growth here at Auberge du Soleil as well. And I'll use a quick example. Our current director of facilities started here a number of years ago as a facilities engineer, entry-level engineering role. And he is now the director of their whole department, and he's a member of our executive committee. And so certainly the salary he earns now isn't equivalent to what he started as, right? But here's someone who worked his way up through hard work, through being curious and wanting to learn, and got to where he is now. I think for learning and development, what I'm seeing around the industry as these roles become more prevalent and more hotels are adopting an L&D strategy, is anywhere, depending on the size of the property, anywhere from the 60s to well over 100,000, the low 100s, again, depending on the size of the property and the organization that you're stepping into. I would say those are the salaries within hospitality when it comes to learning and development. Certainly L&D and other sectors can be a little bit different, and it depends where you are in the country. If you're in Silicon Valley working in tech, the L&D salary is going to be a little bit different, but it's probably going to come with some educational requirements that we may not have within hospitality. Similar kind of for human resources or a talent and culture kind of role. You can expect anywhere from, I would say on the low end, low to mid 60s as a starting salary for an assistant HR manager, an HR business partner. Again, that would be for a smaller property, anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. So there's some wonderful salary opportunities in hospitality. And like Ken said, we always kind of get a bad rep, I think. But certainly there are those who are making wonderful money. And to add on top of that, I'm certain we have servers in our restaurant here, which is a Michelin star restaurant, who make more money than I do because the tips that they make are fantastic. I used to wait tables back in the day, and every now and then I think, maybe I can go pick up a shift upstairs because they're making good money and they love what they do. So no matter where you are within a resort, I think what you earn, what you want to earn, and what you put in the work for.
Great, thanks, Josh. And finally, Alan.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything that's been said. Now, I think if I look at specifically my role, if I looked at just San Francisco, it depends. I'll first say it depends on many factors. Right, the location of the market that the property's in, the experience weighs in on what your compensation is going to be, what segment of business that you're in, whether you're in limited service or full service or luxury. So many factors go into that. But if I look at the cost of living of the area, but if I look at the average salaries for my role, let's say in San Francisco, they have a very wide range. It goes from anywhere from $90,000 all the way over $300,000. So I know that's a big range, but many factors, as I said, go into that. The point is, what was echoed was that this is an industry that you can work your way up in, and you can make a very nice living. It isn't always Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And if that's what you want, maybe this industry isn't for you. But it is a very rewarding career if you like, that environment of providing service and working in culinary and being creative and out there in front of a great customer exceptional journeys. You can make very good living. I've got managers that are anywhere between 45 to 55 to over 100,000, depending on the role that they have and the experience. And then there's also the bonus program. Every one of our hotels have a bonus program that you can earn on top of your salary, a certain percentage, based on certain criteria that you know about ahead of time, and those are your goals. And if you meet those goals, you get X, Y, Z. And if you exceed those goals, a lot of times you can get more. I just handed out bonus checks to everybody for 2021, and we had a lot of happy people. A lot of happy people. The team did
Very
well.
nice. All right, so we are about 5 minutes over, but I did notice that we have one more question. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. So the question was, how can you encourage members to work together as a team? That's a loaded question. How can you encourage members to work together as a team? So whoever wants to jump in first on that one, Alan, you're already unmuted. You can start.
Yeah, members as in the associates, how do you encourage them to work?
I think so, yeah. How can you encourage members to work together as a team?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's been successful for me, certainly when I was coming up through the ranks as department head, I would have a departmental meeting where we go over certain things, and I would invite other departments to attend that meeting, for the purpose of learning the department that they may not work in, but also for the departments to understand each other's role, and more importantly, maybe to understand what isn't working. Housekeeping's input is the front office's output. So it's very important for those two departments to work very well together. And look, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, but it's important to understand why. What is it that front office is doing or isn't doing that's making it very difficult for housekeeping, or vice versa? Or it could be with, the front of the house in the restaurant with the culinary team in the kitchen. Or it could be the sales and catering team with the culinary team or the banquet team. So I think for me is to get everybody involved and included together, face to face, none of this email stuff, and sit down and have a proper discussion to understand each other's roles and how they impact each other. And that for me has been successful in the past. I think you're on mute, Angela.
Great. Chef Ken, what about you?
It's really simple. People here don't have a choice. It's just our culture. And once you build and maintain a strong culture that at the center of which is teamwork, that's just the way it is here. And I think people don't often understand how important culture in an organization really is. And it has to come from the top. If you have good culture, if you just reinforce good culture from the top, good things trickle down from that automatically.
Okay. And finally, Josh.
I agree. Once again, I think it does start with the culture. It starts at the top. A priority of mine is always to have a work environment, a training environment that is safe, inclusive, open, and trustworthy. I always start by telling everyone what happens in this room stays in this room, besides all of the great things that you can take back out into your role. Otherwise, if someone chooses to share something that's vulnerable for them, great. We know that they're doing so in a safe environment. And then to build off what Alan said, having that understanding of what everyone does and why they do it. From my experience, I think the moments of frustration that we experience as a line level team member just come from not knowing, right? You only get told, hey, we're doing this now instead of this, or don't do that, do this instead. And we don't hear the why behind it. And so explaining the whys, I find, eliminates a lot of the confusion or the whatever you may want to call it that we get sometimes when departments or individuals can kind of bump heads or not agree on something. They just don't know the why behind each other's decisions and that thought process. So when we share that, it becomes a much better and cohesive team.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for staying on a little bit longer to answer that final question and for just sharing yourselves today. We so appreciate it. And with that, Alex, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, just kind of echo what you're saying. Thank you to all the panelists for taking time out of your day. Appreciate it. Thank you. And any of the attendees, if you have some questions that come up later, feel free to contact and reach out to us. We'll make sure we get those answered. And like next meeting will be on the 30th. So yeah, thank you again. And yeah, have a wonderful evening.
Okay.